so many new pieces to this IU football team.
To me, that's going to set the tone on how you get ready for games on Saturday in the fall.
I would put that Indiana room up against anybody else in the conference, and that's something that we typically don't even come close to saying.
If you want to get total sickos committee about it, there's a position battle at long snapper too.
This is the Hoosier Huddle Podcast, part of the College Huddle Podcast Network.
All right, welcome to the Hoosier Huddle Podcast. I'm Sammy Jacobs. Alongside me is T.J. Inman, and we're here to recap the awesome Penn State win and then get ready for Senior Day, Indiana's last regular season game at Memorial Stadium this year against the Wisconsin Badgers, who uglied their way to a win over Washington on Saturday night. But first, a word from our friends over at Heartwork.
At Heartwork Brewing, we are fiercely independent. From our variety of craft beers to our artisan Neapolitan-style pizzas, we put our heart into our work. We offer a full menu of draft beers, from our award-winning lagers to IPAs, sours, even our house-made seltzer. Our Northside Taproom has a variety of events and spaces for groups of all sizes. Heartwork is proud to be a locally and veteran-owned business here in Bloomington, just a stone's throw from Memorial Stadium and Assembly Hall at 1703 North College Avenue. Visit heartworkbrewing.com for hours and event info. At Heartwork Brewing.
Awesome. We had our live watch party. What a game to have a live watch party over at Heartwork for was that game. Couldn't have picked a better one. Well, it was looking there like you couldn't have picked a worse one, but ended up as you couldn't have picked a better one. Let's go through that Penn State win. Indiana goes into Happy Valley, wins for the first time, built a big lead. I thought let Penn State off the hook when they didn't score a touchdown off the Aiden Fisher interception. At the game, TJ, we had to get our concessions from the regular concession stand at halftime. It was just, there was no buzz going into the game. So we parked. I talked to some Penn State fans at the tailgate. They said they probably wouldn't even go in. They're just there because it's a gorgeous day and their son goes to school. But they gave, people came in, they started streaming it, but there was no hope. There was no, we're going to upset the number 2 team today. Halftime, the same thing. They had just, fumbled. IU went up 17-7. And then the second play of the game, of the second half, Indiana picks it off right around midfield. Could have made the score 24-7, and I think that empties the place out. Mm-hmm. That puts the dagger in and turns the knife instead. And Signetti said it post game. Instead, they settle for a field goal. It's 20-7, and you left them within striking distance. Now, Penn State comes back. They go kick a field goal, make it 20-10. Indiana has the ball around midfield at the end of the third quarter. They have to punt. The offense kind of disappears in the second half for a while until the last drive. Penn State gets a big run from Nicholas Singleton. They punch it in. It's 20-17. Fernando Mendoza throws a bad pick. Should have thrown the ball away. He did take accountability for it, but throws a bad pick. They have all the momentum. That place is rocking. And then you get Nicholas Singleton on about a 20-yard touchdown receiving run. Penn State takes the lead. Mm-hmm. Indiana gets the ball back, has to punt with about 4 minutes left. Give up a first down, or 2 first downs, I think.
One.
Finally get the ball back with a minute and 53 seconds left, minute 57 left, yep. Right after the 2-minute timeout at the 20-yard line. And great job by Jonathan Brady deking out the punter and the punt coverage team there, because that ball landed, I think, at the 3 and rolled into the end zone. And he was tracking the ball at the 20, and everybody followed him instead of the ball. Mendoza gets sacked, and think he fumbled the ball.
Yep.
On the sack and recovers it at the IU 13. They go 87 yards after that. They hit Omar Cooper on a 17-yard play where I think that kind of turned the tide of that pass was the 22-yard pass on 2nd and 17 where you go, okay, we might be able to do something. They hit E.J. Williams quickly after. Riley Nowakowski, that pass was an absolute missile. Mendoza fires it in there before Nowakowski gets out of his break, knows where he's going to be, makes a great catch, gets you inside Penn State territory, and then Charlie Becker makes an unbelievable catch that is getting overlooked because of what happened next.
Mm-hmm.
At the 7, you get 2 plays. Penn State's bringing the house. 3rd down, Khalil Benson gets enough of the rusher to give Fernando Mendoza that extra second to find Omar Cooper. The first thought going through my head when that ball left his hand was, oh, he threw it out of the back of the end zone. It almost did. Omar's head almost hit the goalpost. But, man, what a catch. What a play to get his feet in bounds. What great positioning by the referee to get his eyes down on the ground, make the correct call on the field. And then IU closed it out. I watched the squib kick again. I think it's just a bad kick.
Yeah.
I don't think he mishit it. I think it was just a bad kick. He didn't kick it where he wanted to, and the guy covered it 30, and the rest is history. But, man, what a roller coaster ride. What was your takeaway from Penn State?
Roller coaster, correct. It was really the first time in the Curt Cignetti era that Indiana had a chance to put an opponent away, to deliver a knockout punch, step on their neck, whatever cliche you want to use. They had a chance for the knockout and failed to take it. And it was really the first time in the entire Curt Cignetti era where that has occurred. And it was kind of really wanted to get a touchdown there, go up 24-7. You're right. I think that probably does it. But you get held to a field goal. And it didn't feel like much at the time, but it was kind of that was a really big opportunity. Failed to take it. That's a bummer.
Yep.
Penn State, I give a lot of credit to them for staying engaged. I thought that their secondary was incredibly physical, and that definitely caused a few issues. I thought that IU's offensive line was at times a bit overwhelmed by Penn State's pass rush.
And you were missing 2 starters. You're down Drew Evans. You're down Drew Evans,
right?
And then you're down Drew Evans' replacement with Mikulski.
Yep, apparently he got banged up. So Ajani was starting at left guard, and I guess you would say a 3rd string at left guard. I think it's kind of a swing backup at the guard position. But yeah, that's a position he had not been in. Individually, I don't think he was bad as standout in any factor. But your offensive line is jumbled, and against really good athletes like Penn State has, there's guys that finally played like NFL draft picks. Denied Dennis Sutton being one of them. He caused Indiana some problems. And they gave them second life. You had the umpire get in the way of a Indiana defender as he takes a bad angle. Nicholas Singleton busts it for a big run. Singleton has his best game of the year. 3 touchdowns for him. So it was a very talented roster playing their best game of the season so far, and Indiana having to weather the storm in the second half. And then obviously having the buy-in, the mental fortitude, the toughness to not panic on that final drive number one, great job by the defense to get the ball back. Good use of timeouts to maximize the time that Indiana did have. There before that 2-minute warning, Indiana is able to get the ball back with, I think you're right, 153, I think was what was left on the clock. But you have definitely seen games where the coaches botch the timeouts there, and you get the ball back with less than a minute left in that scenario. But they did as well as they could have after giving up that first down to Penn State, getting the ball back, getting a stop. I thought that it was a mistake by Penn State to not go for the throat and try and throw the ball there. But I understand, you trust your defense. They played really well that second half, and your running backs are really good. So give them the ball, give them a chance to end it. But they failed to knock Indiana out. They let the Hoosiers have another opportunity, and they took full advantage of it. You recapped the drive, so I don't need to go through all of that, but massive job stepping up by Charlie Becker all day. He was fantastic, put into a usage rate that he's not seen before, and he showed, I'm very capable of handling this.
Yep.
And Elijah Surratt being unable to go, we'll touch on his status moving forward as it relates to these final 2 games of the regular season, but somebody had to step up. We thought it was going to be Omar Cooper. For most of the game, it was Becker.
Yep.
Omar Cooper did not have a real good game up until that last drive.
Yep.
And obviously, the play that he makes there at the end of it totally erases all of that. But it is fair to say that Charlie Becker was IU's best offensive player. He did get IU's offensive player of the game. Coach
Riley
Signetti,
Nowakowski, too. He had some big catches
He did.
in there as well. Going back and watching the game last night, there was more Riley Nowakowski than I thought. But Charlie Becker made himself a name, a known name on Saturday. Now we knew about him because we follow the program and all that stuff, and we saw him in fall camp. But yeah, the catches he made, the body control he had, the route running he had. Now he'll put on more weight and get a little bulkier so he could be more physical. But he went over the top of 2 guys. He got his foot down on that one catch. On the post, he beat his man and made a great catch. And then the sidearm throw from Mendoza that was kind of behind him. He made a great catch to get there. So I don't know.
As you fast forward to next year, and we're certainly not wishing this season away in any fashion, but as you start to look at that wide receiver depth chart for next year, Charlie Becker planted a flag right on his name and saying, hey, I know some guys are leaving. You're penciling me into that lineup.
And I think the
that's
coaches
an answer
want to do
for
that.
Indiana.
They like him. They trust him. They played him in 13 games last year on special teams, and he made a couple big plays. I don't think
the coaches were surprised.
No, the reason he doesn't play much is because IU has a tight rotation, and they don't want to substitute and allow the defense to substitute as well. Now, going forward, we'll see where Elijah Surratt is. Signetti said he was day-to-day. He said that last week. Again, He did go through early warm-ups against Penn State, but it's pretty clear he wasn't going to play. We'll see. Will you need him against Wisconsin? I don't know. But you kind of played with fire a little bit. He definitely would have helped you against Penn State.
Sure.
But you're going to need him the rest of the way too. And maybe this is you're building depth in season with, okay, we could trust Charlie Becker in some big spots now. So, if Elijah can't play or needs a break, or if, Omar needs a break and stuff like that, you could throw him in a little bit more often when it's advantageous, not like, if things are rolling, you're not going to substitute him in and allow the defense to substitute and slow you down on offense. But I think looking towards the postseason, and you're expecting this team to play multiple postseason games with the Big Ten title and either a quarterfinal or a home playoff game or both, that you're going to need a guy like Charlie Becker to expand the rotation. But yeah, looking at next year, definitely planted the flag on that as well. But let's talk about this week's game. Indiana's taking on Wisconsin at 12 Eastern on BTN. The last BTN game for IU, they needed 2, so they got the second one in. At Memorial Stadium, it is senior day. I know I asked Sig about this yesterday. Kind of regretted wasting the question because his answer was, I don't think the guys realized that it's our last home game, which it could be. I don't see IU falling to the 5 seed, so it is potentially your very last home game. It's definitely the last regular season home game.
Yeah.
And you have a lot of foundational pieces like Aiden Fisher. You have some guys who are likely going to the NFL, maybe playing their last home game as well. But the fan base needs to turn out early for this one. I think the ceremony started at 11:30. These guys deserve it. I don't have to explain to you why they deserve it.
Right.
At least I hope not. But this is a game Indiana comes in. I saw when we did our pick 'em, it was a 30.5 point spread. And it's a game Wisconsin, as Sig said, has gone through the gauntlet of an absolute murderer's row of teams. Didn't really get through it. Did come back and beat Washington, nationally ranked Washington at home in a, sleet storm, rainstorm, snowstorm, whatever it was doing. It was gross in Madison. And they knocked off Washington, where Wisconsin's leading passer was their punter. So
yeah.
Let's talk about that, TJ. Did Wisconsin find some new life? Luke Fickell's coming back for 2026. Did they kind of reinvigorate themselves?
Well, so the gauntlet he's talking about, it's true. They start with Miami, Ohio, and Middle Tennessee State. They go to 2-0. After that, it's Alabama, Maryland, Michigan, Iowa, Ohio State, Oregon, Washington, Indiana. They'll close with Illinois and Minnesota. Yeah, that's brutal. That's really, really difficult. Now, you mentioned the new life part. In the middle of the season, they get blanked by Iowa 37-0 and Ohio State 34-0. They appeared to be on quit watch. It looked as if they were totally done. The one thing that they had going for them was a stout defense that at least kept them competitive. That had fled as well as an inept offense. Now, they battle Oregon, still couldn't move the ball at all, but held them 21 points. Weather was a factor in Eugene for that one as well. They lose that one 21-7. And then have Washington, who has DeMond Williams, very talented quarterback. They've got some good weapons on offense.
They lost those weapons in the game, though, too.
They did. A team that was sort of on the fringe of college football playoff conversation, more of a, hey, if Washington can win out, they're right there. But, the defense for Wisconsin continues to be pretty good. I don't think this is an elite unit. This is not as good as Iowa's defense. They're not as good as Oregon. But I think that it's a defense that could give Indiana some issues. And a couple of things that I'll be looking at would be their secondary has done a good job of preventing big plays. And I want to see if Indiana can just keep Fernando Mendoza completely clean. it's just not necessarily a huge red flag right now, but something worth watching as IU moves forward against what we hope is the top competition in the country, and some potentially really good pass rushers. Can Indiana keep the pressure off of Mendoza? I'm sure that's something Wisconsin is going to test. Can we get to him consistently? That's something you're going to look for. So did Wisconsin find new life? I think that they did a little bit, just because winning makes everything feel a little bit better that week. So them beating Washington, I think, is going to give them a little bit of a pep in their step. They know that Luke Fickell is coming back next year. Their athletic director came out and not just gave him a vote of confidence, actually said, hey, here's what we feel the issue is. We have not supported this staff with good enough investment. Basically saying, hey, we didn't give enough in NIL and revenue sharing for him to field a competitive roster. Is that true? Don't know. The same thing was said for Billy Napier before Florida, before this past season, where it was, hey, we're going to invest more and give this staff more resources, and that'll fix the problem. Well, they started this season. The problem wasn't fixed. There was still talent on the roster, but on the field, they still sucked. So is Wisconsin going to have that same issue, give Luke Fickell more resources, but the product on the field is still poor next season? Don't know. But at least the players have an answer, right? They know, okay, our head coach, like him, dislike him, whatever, he's coming back. So that unrest gets put to bed, and they responded by not quitting. They battled against Oregon, especially on defense. They battled against Washington. The problem they're going to have in this game is they're going against a very good defense, and their offense has not found any consistent answers. So what's the formula for Wisconsin to hang around and win this game? They need there to be adverse weather conditions.
It's not.
And they need for there to be a lot of mistakes made by Indiana.
Yeah, you're looking. I know there's snow on the ground now in Indianapolis, and it is really cold. But on Saturday, the forecast is for 68 degrees and sun. So welcome to Indiana weather. Let's take a look at the Wisconsin offense. They're averaging 12.6 points per game. They've scored 14 points off of their turnovers. They're 3.2 yards per rush, 5.9 yards per pass. They've lost their starting quarterback every year. They have 5 guys who've thrown a pass.
Yep.
It looks like Carter Smith, the freshman's going to play on Saturday. He was 3 for 12 for 8 yards last week.
He's a runner. That's what he is. Carter Smith is going to run the ball. Him and Danny O'Neill, it looks like, is what you're going to roll with.
He ran 15 times for a net of 47 yards with a touchdown last week with a long of 16. He had 18 yards lost on the ground. Danny O'Neill averages 1.2 yards on the ground, 184 yards gained, 126 lost with 1 touchdown. But, you look at, Billy Edwards only played in 2 games. He was supposed to come in and be the starter to turn around that offense. He gets hurt in game 1, tries to play against Maryland, doesn't work. Danny O'Neill comes in. He hasn't been good. He gets hurt. And I think he got hurt last week too, or whoever they started. So I would look, Carter Smith is going to go against Carter Smith on the offensive line. That's going to get confusing. It's they don't have – look, Wisconsin has had their brand of football forever where it's been ground and pound, and then they've had a couple of really good receivers that you do play action off of. They don't have that. They have Vinny Anthony. He's a nice receiver, but 26 catches, 291 yards, not great. Lance Mason, 22 catches, 276 yards. Jaden Ballard, who I think came in from Ohio State, only 7 catches for 150 yards. He's the only guy with more than 5 catches averaging over like 15 yards per catch. This offense is absolutely miserable, and they turn the ball over too.
Yeah,
so,
it's the type of team that is
they've put 11 balls on the ground fumble-wise, and they've only lost 2. So they've had tremendous luck in there. However, they have thrown 10 interceptions. So just imagine if they lost, another 5 fumbles to make it 7 out of 11 or 6 out of 11 if you want to go 50-50. I understand why Wisconsin fans are frustrated. And I think the reason that they're bringing Fickle back is because they can't afford his buyout, and they're just it's cheaper to go the NIL route for one more year until that buyout drops.
Sure, yeah. So hey, we tried this last avenue of putting more money into it and giving him additional resources, giving it more time. Plus, in this current coaching cycle, it's a tough market to go up against. I mean, you're firmly behind a number of jobs that are looking to hire. Now, I think that they could have a pretty quick search and go get Eck, Jason Eck from New Mexico State. I think that's a fairly easy hire. He played there at Wisconsin and clearly knows what he's doing. Indiana saw that staff when he was with Idaho. But that's not our problem to worry about.
Nope. Let's look at the Wisconsin defense.
Yeah, one note on the offense.
Yep.
You expect a team like this, that strong defense, lack of verticality in the passing game, struggling at quarterback, and it's Wisconsin, you would expect to have some decent numbers for the tight end group, and it's basically nothing. So I guess you would look at them and say, what exactly is the point of your offense? What is the hope, right? When you are game planning, what is it you're trying to accomplish? And I haven't really been able to discern that in the games that I've watched for them. There does not seem to be a clear plan for how they want to attack. And I do think it comes back to a total lack of trust in the quarterback position. How much would Billy Edwards have changed that? We don't know, but the options they have left, they do not trust them to consistently throw the ball accurately, and that obviously makes it very hard to accomplish much of anything.
Yeah. I mean, their goal is to have their punter lead the game in passing yards. But their defense is very good. And we've seen it now. It's probably been magnified because they played in 2 real bad weather games at Oregon and then Washington at home, and Washington lost their running back early in the game. He went out. Denzel Boston, their best wide receiver, went out as well, and it was just a tough sledding for their quarterback, Damon Williams. Wisconsin has 21 sacks on the season, 5 interceptions. They've only forced 2 fumbles, and then they also have 48 tackles for loss. It's a solid defense. It's not Penn State's defense. I don't think it's Oregon's defense, and it's definitely not Iowa's defense either. What makes this defense difficult to play against?
It's the linebackers. Really good linebacking group, and a group that, if they stick together, would be among the Big Ten's best going into next season. It's a big question whether or not they are going to stick together, but junior Christian Alviegro, and then a pair of freshmen, Cooper Catalano and Mason Poza, are really good. That's a good trio. I think the secondary is very solid. And then they pressure the quarterback okay. It's not kind of one guy, but they do have 21 sacks on the season. So they do a decent job of getting after the opposing passer. On the kind of Mason Rieger is sort of their pass rush specialist. And then again, Poza, Allegro, and Catalano kind of provide the firepower in the middle of that defense at the linebacker group. I think that it will be a good test for Indiana's receivers, but if the weather is what we expect it to be, that should help Indiana's offense kind of continue the momentum that we saw from the end of that Penn State game. One of my kind of best bets to watch for would be whatever Fernando Mendoza's number is on passing touchdowns to take the over for Fernando Mendoza passing touchdowns, because I do think this Wisconsin defensive numbers have been inflated a little bit by these past two games being in such adverse conditions.
Yeah, it's going to be 71 and partly sunny, partly cloudy. Winds 10 to 15 miles an hour. Now that could change because it's only Tuesday.
Sure.
But
Sure.
yeah, nobody will believe me now because it's 30 degrees and snowy outside. But yeah.
It's safe to say it's not going to look like it did in Eugene for the Wisconsin game, and it's not going to look like it did last week in Madison. So at minimum, weather is not going to be a crippling thing for the offenses. So it's a good unit, but IU should be able to run the ball successfully.
Yep.
And if they can keep Fernando Mendoza from being pressured much in the pocket, I like Indiana's receivers against this secondary. So a good unit, one that IU should be able to eventually overwhelm.
Yeah, let's get into key matchup. You mentioned it. IU should be able to run the ball. That's my matchup to watch. Is Indiana's running game. It struggled against Penn State, but when Indiana's really going well, they're running the ball effectively, getting into those second and manageables, third and manageables, and moving the chains and getting first downs.
Yeah, it was interesting. Sorry to cut you off there, but your point there, I want to ask you a question on it. It really seemed like Indiana was getting kind of somewhere either 7 or 8 yards a carry or tackled in the backfield.
Yeah.
What did you notice when you rewatched the game? Did you notice anything that was causing those tackles for loss that really we haven't seen anybody else do that to Indiana's offense? A lot of penetration right off the snap. What do you think was causing that?
I mean, super talented defensive line. I mean, Zane Durant's an NFL draft pick. Dom DeLuca was like shot out of a cannon early on. So I thought they blocked it well on first down and kind of spread the receivers out, where IU on first down this year has used the pass to kind of set up the run.
Mm-hmm.
This week, it looked like they kind of changed it up, or last week they kind of changed it up where they ran the ball on first down, and it did. They had Hemby on the first play of the game, gets 8 yards, and there was a couple big chunk runs on first down, but I think you have one Benson at right tackle is clearly his ankle is clearly affecting how he plays. He did not want to come out of that game for that one play. And Sig called him out during the Maryland game that he was being dramatic and acts like he dies. That ankle clearly is affecting his mobility. And then you also had a redshirt freshman making his first start inside. So it was you're missing Drew Evans, who's played well. and Indiana is undefeated in games that Drew Evans played. I think a lot of people have pointed that out, but I think it is also simultaneously going under the radar. And then they just sent more people than IU could block a lot of the times. But that to me, it's a very good. You had a lot of talent playing very hard for Penn State, and that I think was the kind of the difference, because I thought Indiana could run on Penn State, and they kind of did. But you're right; it was either an 8-yard run on first down or a tackle for loss. There was none of, kind of at the end of the first half, you had those runs where Kalon Black started carrying people and things like that. But it wasn't like the Indiana offensive line did not lean on Penn State like they leaned against Maryland or UCLA or Illinois and stuff like, and just wore them down, and holes started to open up. Penn State's still a very talented team. We'll see what happens in Wisconsin, but when Indiana's offense is clicking, that run game goes well. You even saw it at Iowa. I thought they ran the ball well at Iowa, even though they did not run for a gazillion yards. But they limited the tackles for loss, which they didn't against Penn State.
Yeah. My matchup is just going to be right there. Indiana's offensive line. Really going against Wisconsin's defense, but my focus will be on, can we keep Fernando Mendoza from being pressured, keep him from taking big hits, and I think if so, the offense is going to find a rhythm. So that's what I'll be looking for. But I think we're both kind of sort of one eye looking a bit cautiously at, hey, can we get this offensive line figured out here in these next 2 games before we take on Ohio State? I think that's going to be sort of the key thing to watch. I think that there's a lot of faith and trust in the staff to figure that out, and it's not like it's been bad. But just, hey, let's get that a little bit more rock solid, and hopefully by the Ohio State game, Drew Evans will be back in the lineup. But
it says a few weeks.
Yep.
So you have 3 between Saturday and the Big Ten title game,
right?
With that bye week in the middle, which I've seen a lot of people complaining about why does IU have a bye week the second week of the year, second to last week of the regular season. One, they're playing Purdue on Friday night, so it would be a short week. And I kind of like it. It kind of sets you up for the postseason really well. If you do get that bye, you get what, 2 weeks in December. You get 2 weeks into the first round. So the first round's the 19th and the 20th, and then you get another. So you get 3 weeks for the bye there. You kind of get a game in the middle. So it is a rust versus rest, but I think at this point, with how banged up IU is, that the rest would do them well. And you're going to be playing probably be playing Ohio State or another really, really good physical team in the Big Ten championship game, where getting that time off to just recuperate and get back to 100. Nobody's going to be 100%, but getting back to as full strength as you can get in December is going to be huge. Let's IU will raise the victory flag if TJ.
There's Indiana should not struggle with this game. This should be one that gets put to bed, by the third quarter, and then you're just determining, okay, how much we want to push this. But I do think that turnovers are an obvious one because Wisconsin has struggled with them. And as you pointed out, it could have been even worse. And Indiana's defense has done a really good job, especially over the past 3 games, of forcing takeaways with interceptions and fumbles. I believe it's 10 in the last 3 weeks. So that's something to look for. And if Indiana takes care of the ball, I have faith they're going to score on this Wisconsin defense at a pretty good clip. So you force a couple turnovers of Wisconsin's offense, and we could be looking at potential shutout watch here.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at. Is a potential shutout watch on defense. They don't have
which would be an awesome way to send out Aiden Fisher in his what we expect to be his last game in Bloomington. He's not the only one. Kamara as well. A number of other potential guys playing their last game. Could be the last home game for D'Angelo Pons. Could be the last home game, we assume, for Surratt if he's able to go. Quite a few, as you mentioned, foundational pieces. It would be a meaningful or at least fitting send-off to get a shutout and get a blowout win in that kind of home finale.
Yeah. To me, it's first down success. It is Indiana will win if they win on first down. Last week, he had 27 first down plays. He got 167 yards on first down. The average gain was 6.2 yards. They rushed for 3.6 yards on first down. They threw the ball 15 times and got 120 yards on that. Now, where it gets dicey on that, Indiana was put into third and longs 3 times and third and shorts 3 times. They were 1 of 6 on those.
Yeah.
It was not a great third down game for IU. They ran the ball 3 times on third down. I just think you got to get back to getting to those 3rd and 4s, 3rd and 2s, where you could throw the ball there or you could run the ball there. That to me all starts on first down. If you could get those, like we've seen, those short out route passes for 4 or 5 yards on first down, turn it into 2nd and 5 or 2nd and 4, and then turn those into 3rd and 1s or even first downs, IU will be in business. So that's my IU will raise the victory flag if. Best bets, TJ. You mentioned Fernando Mendoza's touchdowns, whatever the number is, taking the over.
Yep, I assume they'll put that at 2.5. I
assume you mean passing and not total.
Yes. Yep. I would take over. Actually, I think Fernando throws for 4 touchdowns and runs for another one. How's that for super specific? It does feel to me like a game after that escape where you were able to have not just a sigh of relief, but legitimate joy from Curt Cignetti.
Yep.
That game meant a lot to him.
Yep.
He'd lost a lot of times, not as the head coach, but as members of a team, a player or an assistant or a support staff guy or his dad's team, a lot of losses at Penn State. And it meant a lot for him to take a team into State College and get a win, particularly the manner that they did. I think he was really proud of the way that his guys fought back and won that game. I think that there's an opportunity to release some of the tension from that week. And unfortunately for Wisconsin, they're the team that's in front of them. So I would take Indiana over their team total, whatever that ends up being. I would take Fernando Mendoza over on his total touchdowns. And as far as Indiana covering, that's a big number for what is, I would anticipate, going to be a game that Wisconsin doesn't contribute much to in the score line. So I'd stay away from the Indiana to cover. But I do think IU's going to win this game. I'll go ahead and just throw my prediction in there. I'll go with Indiana winning this one 42-10. I think Wisconsin gets a late touchdown and a sad field goal at some point in this game, 42-10. So Indiana wins it comfortably, and I think Mendoza has a good day. Doesn't have anything to do with the Heisman or Signetti trying to get him stats or any of that. I like Indiana's passing offense to have a big day.
Yeah, well, we're now into the part of the season where common opponents and scores are dominating people's rankings and stuff like this. This is a common opponent between IU and Ohio State. Ohio State knocked off Wisconsin at home or on the road 34-0. And I think Indiana is going to try and keep pace.
Also a common opponent with Alabama, by the way.
Yes.
Common opponent with Alabama.
Common opponent. Yep,
long time
forgot
ago.
about that one. Seems like 2 years ago.
Yeah,
but yeah,
that's
it's a common
38 to
opponent
14.
of two people that you're trying to stay ahead of in the college football playoff rankings, which come out tonight again. So I'm gonna take your shutout watch and make it a shutout warning, and say Indiana 41, Wisconsin nothing. Fernando will get his. I think they'll start taking people out when they need to, if they need to, and get ready for a bye week, and then against Purdue for the bucket game to close out the regular season. So if it is that, I hope the fans stay. This team deserves the end of the game standing ovation to end the year. If they win on Saturday, that is 2 undefeated seasons at home. That's 15 wins at home in a row if they win on Saturday. So they deserve it. So they deserve it. The fans deserve it, and they need to have that moment at the end too. So hopefully they stick around. It's supposed to be a nice day. It's 70 degrees. Why are you going inside? Because in about a week it's going to be like this again. So yeah, that's it. 41-0. I think Fernando pads his. I think he pads his stat. I know they don't want him, want to do the Heisman talk and all that stuff, and they're poo-pooing it. But it's go time. I'm not saying play him in the fourth quarter when you're up 41-0, but let him release it, because you know what, you're going to need him to be in rhythm and ready to rip it in the postseason as well.
Yeah, and who knows what the weather's going to be like on Black Friday in West Lafayette. You might not have a chance to throw it.
Usually in the seventh circle of hell, it is super cold and miserable and the worst environment imaginable.
So not fun to throw the ball in, right?
Yeah.
So get your work in now.
Yeah. So, all right, that does it for today's podcast. Indiana, Wisconsin kicking off at noon Eastern on Big Ten Network. So IU hasn't been on BTN in a minute. So go find that channel finder on whatever your provider is. You can come back to HoosierHuddle.com. I am cleaning up the forums a little bit and reorganizing them. So there aren't 40 million posts and 40 million pages to go through to get to our most recent stuff. And then we'll have basketball coverage as well. Women tonight against Marshall. And then the men play tomorrow against Milwaukee.
Yep.
And is that still Doug Gottlieb's team? Or is he at Green Bay?
That's Green Bay. Unfortunately, we don't get to play Green Bay. Milwaukee, just a brief basketball plug on that. The Candy Stripe Scoop. That'll be out tomorrow morning. A preview of the week's action. Milwaukee on Wednesday, Incarnate Word on Sunday. Both of them right around 200 in the advanced metrics. So, much higher caliber opponent than Alabama A&M. And I think worth paying attention to. Milwaukee in particular, they're 2-1, and they led the nation in fast break points last season. So, a team that might be interesting to watch, and maybe a decent test for Indiana as they try to keep the momentum that they gained from beating Marquette. But it's a full week. Lots of stuff on the site, lots of stuff to talk about on the forum. And, of course, we continue this storybook football season that's been so much fun.
Yep. Before we get out of here, TJ, where do you predict IU comes in the college football playoff rankings tonight?
3.
3.
I do think Texas A&M makes the leap with another, quote, ranked victory, although Missouri, being a ranked team, was a bit of a joke. But, hey, that's not a slander of Texas A&M. That's a really good team. I do think that they'll jump up to number 2, Indiana at number 3, and there'll be a lot of talk from the committee about how it was really a 3-team conversation for those 3 spots and all that. But they'll give the SEC team the nod at number 2. Ultimately, I don't view it as mattering much. I think it's pretty clear to me that the winner of the Big Ten is getting the 1 seed. The winner of the SEC is getting the 2. The loser of the Big Ten title game, I think, will get the 3. And the loser of the SEC title game will get the 4, assuming that Indiana and Ohio State both go into that game undefeated. Yep. So I kind of think that how it looks right now is sort of irrelevant because I think it's such a clear projection to how it's going to play out. The only thing that I could see breaking that up is if Texas Tech continues to dominate the way that they have. Maybe if they get another shot against Utah, which the committee clearly likes, and if Utah is ranked like 10th or 11th and Texas Tech beats them in a blowout in the Big 12 title game, maybe Utah or maybe Texas Tech jumps up into that top 4 as a 1-loss conference champion. Maybe. But again, I think that's a long shot. I think it's clear the SEC and Big Ten are getting those top 4, and it's just going to be a question of what's your matchup in that quarterfinal game and which one are you going to? Is it the Cotton Bowl or the Orange Bowl?
Oh, the Orange Bowl would be nice. Just for personal reasons, since my mom lives down in Florida. But
or is it the Rose Bowl because you won the Big Ten?
Yeah. So it's to me a lot more of the drama is further down in the poll, especially with the group of 5, especially with the ACC, who
That's
technically, I know it's not going to happen, technically be left out of the college football playoff because it is the top 5 conference champions. And there are no auto bids for the Power 4, but you just assume that they would be in the top 5. But the ACC has been.
If James Madison, if they win the Sun Belt, and if the American champion, let's say it's South Florida, and then you'd have the ACC champion, if that team is Duke, and Duke has an awful resume, it's conceivable that James Madison in South Florida would be ahead of Duke in the final rankings, which would put James Madison and South Florida in as 2 group of 5 teams, while Duke and the ACC get left out entirely. Not likely, but a hilarious scenario to contemplate.
It would be hilarious. Or you could have the ACC champion out and Georgia Tech could be it's all the drama is towards the bottom in the middle of the poll. I do think Indiana, the 2 or 3. I do think there's been a kind of a wave for Texas A&M to get that 2 spot. I'll make our fans happy and say IU will be the 2, but we'll find out around 8 p.m. tonight, and then we'll have the quotes from the committee as well. So thank you for joining us. Keep coming back to HoosierHuddle.com. Follow us on X at Hoosier_Huddle. We are also $30 a year, $3 a month for our premium content. There's more premium content coming out as we move along with our new site. And then, as always, we have our free stuff. The forums are free. Come and join us and, enjoy another week of Indiana football.